It's quite simple, folks. Thomas Macaulay closed a lot of the investigations early. If you don't believe me, go and get the Deloitte report that was done in 2010. It says it clearly in that report that these investigations should not have been closed and were closed far too early. Why? Mr. Macaulay, you answer that question. Why did you close investigations into Republicans?
Further north, they think they're seeing that happen. For the last 2 years, the Ulster Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals has been investigating the trade in Irish horse meat. The investigation started when horses across Ireland began to disappear.
This started to happen so often that we realised that this was being done on an industrial scale. Think of it as a giant horse hoover. A giant Dyson for horses was hoovering up all the horses in Ireland. We were shocked to discover that large numbers of these animals were under the direct control of people known to the USPCA, criminal people who were now acquiring, controlling and dispersing these animals on a massive scale.
They began a surveillance operation.
Lorry load after lorry load after lorry load of horses were moving through the night up into Ulster, over into Scotland and down into the English mainland. One individual we watched made 3 trips to England in 5 days with, well, probably 100 horses in those 3 trips.
And they had intelligence which led them to believe the horses ended up in abattoirs in the UK and Ireland.
So the animals entered the food chain. They're no longer horses, they're packets of meat.
And there's another problem. The charity believes horses are being given forged passports and false microchips, so unfit animals can appear to have a clean bill of health.
Certainly, animals we saw were not fit for human consumption. The thought of anybody eating them fills me with dread.
The problem is, there is people within the head of DARD who are allowing the Republican movement to use and abuse the system. For a number of years, we've been reporting what's been going on with beef and horses. And we can back this up with facts, even statements from investigating officers. So I know people like to put us down as fools, but remember this. Breen and Buchanan inquiry, you put us down as fools. You said it would never happen. We got it. Whenever we told you there was a bottling plant in South Armagh where they were rebottling vodka and whiskey, cheap, into Smirnoff bottles and Bell's whiskey bottles, and labelled them, you laughed at us until they found it. And I'm telling you now, the Republican movement are behind this. Some of the factories along the border are responsible for slaughtering these horses. Be under no illusion, this is an international network that can only be run and controlled by a massive organisation which has got the clout, and the only people who have got the clout in the border area is the IRA. The people in Poland are correct. The labels are the same, but they're not their labels. That's because they're making the boxes in the border region. They have their own printing factory. They have their own slaughterhouses in some areas in South Armagh. Now they move them about, and sometimes they use original slaughterhouses when they're not busy. For at least 6 years we've been reporting this. Check out about the passports. Ring up, do an FOI. I would challenge the investigating journalists out there. Do your FOIs. Find out if the passport people who look after horses have put in several complaints. Find out if any complaints have been put in from people like myself. Because remember, with the land, you laughed at us as well. Whenever I said that Slab Murphy and people like him were claiming hundreds of thousands and indeed millions for land that didn't exist, you laughed at us. Well, it cost you £77 million. That's what it cost you. And who had to pay for it? The genuine farmer. The legit farmer, let him be a Catholic or Protestant. That's who had to pay for it. And the man in charge of the fraud department is turned a blind eye to every bit of this. You will have read today in the newsletter a report by a journalist from the mainland. It was us that got that journalist over here. She uncovered massive amounts of fraud going on. But these people seem to be unaccountable. Why? Because who runs the Department of Agriculture? Who runs the farming industry? Sinn Féin, IRA, and have done for his last 2 terms. Ask the FOIs, ask the Freedom of Information questions of these different departments, and you will find that this country, if it wasn't paying out as much in scams, would be running very, very well. And a matter of fact, it probably would be booming. And the only reason it's not is because these scum are scamming every penny they can out of our system, from the European money to the British taxpayers' money, right down to